Hello, AP Scholars. We are taking a look at the second question in the free response practice question package number 1. And I would like to just start off with the notes here. These are taken from the College Board, so that's where I got this from. Um, we got, some reasonable information. The quick reference, by the way, is usually a small sheet of a small amount of information that you're given in the AP exam. Some minor things like like what methods does string have and so on. Who cares? And this is nothing that exciting. The next one is interesting because it tells you that if you write a bunch of code that could be replaced by a call to one of the given methods, you might lose some points. But then what's this digital sounds thing? Sorry about that. Did that confuse you? It's like digital random fact. Digital sounds we represent as an array of integer values. Did not really belong here. I'm not too sure where it came from, so I apologize. Disregard this line. So, anyways, let's get to the actual what question 2 is about. We're going to give you a bit of a hint. We're going to read over the question and just decide together what it's all about, what it's asking. We're not going to do the answer in this video. Just this is kind of a hint to get you started and hopefully start building that skill of reading the AP exam and figuring out what the heck it wants you to do. So let's begin. So this question is all about this fuel depot concept. I think I don't want to start with the tank. I want to start with the fuel depot. There's a robot, there's these list of tanks and that kind of stuff, but the actual fuel depot is what we want to look at. The fuel depot is a class. It has this robot thing, this fuel robot called filler. It's got a list of fuel tank objects called tanks. And it's got some methods you're going to write. So what the heck are these things? So for the first question, we really only need to know about the fuel tanks and that there's a list of them. So let's talk about that. So a fuel tank is basically some kind of object. I guess it's a class, but the ones that are in the array list are objects, and they may have more than one method, but the only method you know about that you need to know about is get fuel level. So there's an array list of fuel tanks, and you in part A are going to be looking for the lowest ones that are under some threshold. So I'll show you what the method looks like, and then we'll talk about what's going on in this question a little bit more. So in part A, it says, write the fuel depot method called next tank to fill. It returns the index of the next tank to be filled. Let's see. So I do want to make note that it does have a parameter called threshold, and basically the answer, whatever the index is that you're returning, that has to be below the threshold. So you have some examples that we'll look at later on. And you're going to return that index of the lowest one that needs to be refilled. But hey, if there's no tanks with fuel levels that are equal or less than the threshold, you just return whatever the robot's current index is. So actually, I guess we do need to know a bit about the robot. So we'll get back to that in a second. So here we got ourselves an example of the array list of fuel tanks. I think they're called. I forgot. So here's an example of the threshold thing. If you get sent a threshold of 50, then we're only considering fuel tanks that are less than 50, less than or equal to, I believe. So which is the next tank to be filled? Well, you could either select 20 or, sorry, 0, index 0, or index 6, because they are both less than 50 and are the lowest ones below 50. If you were to have had a threshold of 15, though, all tanks are above the threshold of 15, so we don't need to fill anything. So we just return the current index of the robot, which is 2. So that's the story behind it. It's basically a loop that's going to be looking for an index that satisfies the criteria of both the threshold and then also which is the smallest number below that threshold. You might be like, oh, okay, well, that's not so hard. But remember, you're not looking at, this isn't an int you're looking at, this is an object, and you have to call the method that the object has to access it. So you have to be using this get fuel level to make that work. Let's see, I guess the other thing is you need to figure out how do you get the robot's current position. And you could take a look at the robots methods available. This is the fuel robot interface. It's basically just a list of its methods. Oh, look, it's got a get current index method, so I think that's the way you're going to use it. Yeah. So the next that covers, I guess, the first question as much as I think I need to say about that one. And again, if you still feel pretty lost about it, I'll be doing a video about the answers coming up. In part B, the next question is we're going to be writing a fuel depot method called move to location that will actually move the robot, make it the robot's using the robot's methods and such. Then we'll make the robot move to a particular location that's given to us as a parameter. And there's some difficulties here because the robot can only move forward, so it may be necessary to change the direction. So in other words, if it's facing to the right, it can only move to the right. There is a way to change its direction though, so that's cool. But then when you tell it to move, it'll move only to the left until you change the direction. So you're going to have to kind of control its direction and make it move in the right direction. So, what things do you have available to do this crazy task? So you have get current index. So the robot can check its current index. This method is not being written in the fuel robot, remember, it's being written in the fuel depot. So we'll have to refer to our robot, which is named filler. We are going to be able to check to see if it's facing right. And of course, how do you check to see if it's facing left? Well, if it's not facing right, because this returns true or false, I guess that'll tell you that if this returns false, then I guess it's facing left. We also have the change direction, so we can make it go in a different direction, and then move forward a certain amount of spaces. So we can tell it to move in its current direction this many spaces. So that's what methods you have available to yourself. And you have to kind of know what to do with the filler and how to connect these methods to it. So hopefully that gives you an idea of what's happening there. If you're still not sure, I'll be having an answer video coming up. So that's part B, and those are some. The actual code for the questions is not super tough to write once you figure out what's going on in the questions. If you're still not too sure, again, check out the video and hopefully you can backtrack to the answers. I will be releasing the answer videos probably Sunday night or Monday morning. So take a look for those coming up. Okay, thanks everybody.